Snowflakes drifted down like delicate feathers, coating the city in a white shimmer. The streets glowed with golden light as families hurried home, their arms full of presents and their faces bright with laughter. The air buzzed with carols, chiming bells, and the warmth of togetherness. But tucked away in the shadows, behind the shining storefronts and glittering trees, the city held secrets, those who had no home, no family, and no reason to celebrate. Ethan Cole sat quietly behind the wheel of his sleek black SUV, parked in front of a toy store. His daughter, Lily, had fallen asleep in the backseat, her small arms wrapped tightly around a brand new teddy bear. Ethan smiled faintly as he looked at her reflection in the rearview mirror. She was all he had left in this world. Once upon a time, Ethan had everything: wealth, a thriving company, and a beautiful wife who had been his anchor. But cancer had stolen her from him 5 years ago, leaving him to raise Lily alone. Money could buy toys, comfort, and luxuries, but it couldn't fill the empty chair at the dinner table or the silence of nights without her laughter. Still, Ethan had promised himself one thing: he would give Lily the kind of love and security that no amount of tragedy could take away. He shifted gears and pulled out into the quiet streets. The city was alive with Christmas lights, but beneath the beauty, Ethan often noticed the contrast: those who celebrated and those who simply survived. Tonight, that contrast would reveal itself in a way he never expected. As he turned down a side street, something caught his eye. A shadow moved near a large green trash bin by the alley. Curious, Ethan slowed down. And then he saw her. A woman, thin and trembling, was digging through the garbage. Her coat was threadbare, barely clinging to her body against the biting cold. Her fingers, red and raw, sifted desperately through discarded containers. She lifted one, shook it, and sighed when she found it empty. Then she pulled out a piece of stale bread and clutched it to her chest as though it were treasure. Ethan's chest tightened. He had seen homelessness before, but something about this woman's frail figure under the harsh glow of the streetlight struck him deeply. He would have driven on, maybe rationalized it as just another sad reality of the city, but then Lily stirred. "Daddy," she whispered softly, rubbing her sleepy eyes. "Why is that lady digging in the trash?" Her innocent question froze him. Ethan didn't know what to say. He couldn't lie to her, but the truth felt too cruel. He parked the car by the curb, his heart racing. "Stay here, sweetheart," he said gently, brushing her hair. Then he stepped out into the freezing night air. The woman noticed him approaching and froze like a deer caught in headlights. Fear clouded her eyes as she pulled the piece of bread closer, as if afraid he would snatch it away. "I'm sorry," she blurted out quickly, her voice hoarse, trembling. "I'm not stealing, I swear. I'm just hungry. I haven't eaten in 2 days. Please don't call the police." Her words weren't defensive, they were pleading. The kind of plea that came from someone who had been punished for merely existing. Ethan stopped a few feet away, his breath clouding in the cold air. "I'm not calling anyone," he said softly. His voice was calm, careful. I wanted to make sure you're okay." The woman lowered her gaze, embarrassed. Her hair, tangled and wet with snow, fell into her face. She looked to be in her early 30s, though hardship had carved lines of exhaustion across her features. "What's your name?" Ethan asked. She hesitated, as though even giving her name was dangerous. "Maria," she finally whispered. Her voice cracked when she added, I didn't mean to bother anyone. It's Christmas Eve, and I just wanted something to eat." Ethan's throat tightened. Christmas Eve. Families were feasting, exchanging gifts, singing songs, and here was a woman begging scraps from the trash. Silence stretched between them for a moment, broken only by the crunch of snow beneath passing footsteps in the distance. Ethan opened his mouth to speak, but before he could, Maria looked up at him with glassy eyes and whispered words that pierced his very soul. You have no idea what it feels like to lose everything in one night, and still have to keep breathing. The weight of her words hit him like a blow. Ethan's mind flashed back to the sterile hospital room, the sound of machines beeping, and the moment the doctor told him his wife was gone. He remembered holding Lily, barely a toddler then, and realizing his world had collapsed in an instant. But Maria didn't know that. To her, he was just another wealthy man in an expensive coat, staring down at a woman who had nothing. I do know, Ethan said quietly, his voice thick with unspoken pain. Maria's eyes widened slightly, as if she hadn't expected compassion. She looked away quickly, ashamed of her own vulnerability. Snowflakes clung to her lashes, and her lips trembled as she hugged herself tighter against the cold. Ethan glanced back at his car. Through the fogged window, he could see Lily's curious face pressed against the glass, watching everything. He turned back to Maria, his decision already forming in his heart. You shouldn't be out here, he said firmly but gently. Not tonight. Not any night. Maria gave a bitter laugh, though it was more of a broken exhale than a laugh. Where else should I be? Shelters are full. Doors are closed. People pass by me like I'm invisible. I've been invisible for so long, I don't even remember what it feels like to be seen. Her words sliced through him. Ethan realized this wasn't just about hunger. It was about dignity, about the unbearable loneliness of being discarded by the world. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. You're not invisible. Not tonight. Not anymore. Maria looked at him as though trying to figure out if this was a cruel trick. No one spoke to her like this. No one saw her. Ethan reached out a hand, not forceful, but steady, offering. Come with me, he said softly. Not just for food, but for something more. Her lips trembled as tears filled her eyes. She shook her head slightly, torn between fear and longing. Why? Why would you care? Ethan glanced back at Lily again. Because sometimes, kindness is the only gift worth giving. And because once, someone showed me mercy when I thought my world had ended. I owe that mercy to someone else now. Maria swallowed hard, unable to speak. She stared at his hand, at the warmth it promised, at the hope it dared her to believe in. Slowly, hesitantly, she reached out. Her cold, fragile fingers slipped into his palm. And that was the moment everything changed. On the coldest Christmas Eve of her life, Maria didn't just find food in a trash bin, she found a doorway to something she thought she had lost forever, the possibility of hope. The diner's neon sign flickered against the snowy night, a beacon of warmth in the freezing cold. Ethan pushed open the glass door, guiding Maria inside. The moment they stepped through, a rush of heat enveloped them. The rich smell of frying bacon, fresh coffee, and baked pies filled the air. Maria hesitated at the entrance, clutching the ragged edges of her coat as though she didn't belong there. Her worn shoes left faint wet marks on the tiled floor, and she shrank back, afraid the waitress might throw her out. But Ethan placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. You're with me, he said. Quietly. The waitress, a cheerful middle-aged woman wearing a Santa hat, greeted them with a smile. Table for 3, she asked, her eyes flicking curiously toward Maria. Yes, Ethan said firmly, before Maria could stammer an apology. They slid into a booth. Lily, bright-eyed and still holding her teddy bear, sat beside her father, but her gaze kept drifting toward Maria. The little girl tilted her head, studying the stranger with an innocent curiosity that held no judgment, only wonder. A steaming plate of food soon arrived, scrambled eggs, toast, and a bowl of hot soup. Maria stared at it, her hands trembling. She wanted to devour it all at once, but she forced herself to eat slowly, delicately, as if afraid it would vanish if she wasn't careful. Tears blurred her vision as the warmth of the soup spread through her chest. Thank you, she whispered, her voice shaking. You don't know what this means to me. Ethan leaned back, watching her closely. You don't owe me thanks. Everyone deserves a meal. especially on Christmas Eve. Lily tugged on her father's sleeve and whispered loudly enough for both adults to hear, "Daddy, can she come home with us? She looks so lonely." Maria froze, nearly dropping her spoon. "No, sweetheart," she said quickly, shaking her head. "I don't want to be a burden. I used to have a home too. A good life. But everything was taken from me." Her voice cracked. The words tumbled out like pieces of a story she had carried in silence for too long. "My husband, he got sick. The hospital bills ate up everything we had. I tried to keep our little apartment, tried to work, but when he died, the debt swallowed me whole. I lost my home, my job, everything. I've been on the streets for almost a year now." Her voice broke into a whisper. "It's like the world forgot I ever existed." Ethan's jaw tightened. He reached across the table, resting his hand gently over hers. "Maria, listen to me. You are not forgotten. You are not invisible. You're still here, which means you're stronger than you think." Her lips parted, her eyes wide with disbelief. No one had ever said words like that to her, not since her life had crumbled. After they finished eating, Ethan made his decision. He didn't ask. He didn't hesitate. "You're coming with us tonight," he said firmly. Maria stared at him in shock. "What? No. I can't. You don't even know me." "I know enough," Ethan said gently. "I know you've been through hell. And I know no one deserves to spend Christmas Eve alone, digging through garbage. My daughter wants you to come, and so do I." Maria's throat closed. Tears slipped silently down her cheeks. She couldn't understand why this man, a wealthy stranger with everything, cared about someone like her. But when she looked at Lily's wide, innocent smile, something inside her softened. That night, for the first time in months, Maria didn't sleep on frozen concrete or under a bridge. She followed Ethan and Lily into a warm, spacious penthouse filled with glowing Christmas lights. The scent of pine and cinnamon filled the air. Stockings hung by the fireplace. A decorated tree sparkled with ornaments and gifts. Maria stood frozen in the doorway, overwhelmed. I don't belong here," she whispered. "Yes, you do," Ethan said quietly, placing a hand on her shoulder. "Tonight, you do." Lily grabbed Maria's hand and tugged her toward the tree. "Come sit with us. We're opening presents." Maria's heart ached as she watched the little girl tear open a box with delighted squeals. The room pulsed with warmth, laughter, and love. For so long, Maria had forgotten what joy looked like. When Lily handed her a small gift, wrapped clumsily but with care, Maria gasped. It was one of Lily's old scarves, folded neatly with a ribbon. "It's for you," Lily said shyly. "So you won't be cold anymore." Maria pressed the scarf to her face, sobbing quietly. She had received nothing for Christmas in years. But this simple, selfless gift, meant more than anything she had ever owned. Over the next days, Maria slowly adjusted to being in their home. Ethan gave her new clothes. Lily showed her her favorite books and toys. At first, Maria moved timidly, afraid of breaking something, afraid of overstaying her welcome. But gradually, she allowed herself to breathe. She began to cook simple meals, pasta, soup, grilled cheese. She cleaned dishes without being asked. She told Lily bedtime stories she remembered from her childhood. And little by little, laughter returned to her lips. Ethan noticed it all. He noticed how Maria's presence filled the quiet spaces of the house. He noticed how Lily's giggles grew brighter with Maria around. And he noticed how Maria's eyes, though still shadowed by sorrow, carried a spark of strength. One night, after Lily had gone to bed, Ethan found Maria standing by the fireplace, staring at the twinkling lights of the city outside the window. She looked small against the vast skyline, her arms folded tightly around herself. "You don't have to thank me," Ethan said softly, stepping beside her. "I didn't bring you here out of pity." "Then why?" she asked, her voice fragile. Ethan hesitated, searching for the right words. He stared into the flames crackling in the hearth. Because I know what it feels like to lose everything in a single night. I know the emptiness that follows. When my wife died, I thought I would never recover. But somehow, Lily gave me a reason to keep going. And when I saw you that night, I realized maybe it was my turn to give someone else that reason. Maria's eyes filled with tears. No one had ever bared their heart to her like this. She turned toward him, her voice trembling. Do you really think I can start over? Ethan met her gaze, his voice steady. I don't just think so, I know so. You've survived the hardest part. Now it's time to live again. For the first time in years, Maria allowed herself to believe. She closed her eyes, letting the warmth of the fire and Ethan's words sink into her soul. And so, on a Christmas she thought she would spend forgotten in the cold, Maria found something she hadn't dared to dream of. Not just shelter or kindness, but family. A millionaire single dad, his little girl, and a homeless woman whose hope had nearly died discovered that sometimes the greatest miracles don't come wrapped in shiny paper or under twinkling lights. Sometimes, they come quietly, through compassion, through kindness, and through the courage to open one's heart. That Christmas Eve didn't just change Maria's life. It changed Ethan's. It changed Lily's. And together, they found something far more precious than wealth, love, belonging, and a second chance at life.